All right, David. Thanks so much for coming on to the Eclectic Mix with Steve here on radiosunnyside.org, 101.5 KSZN LP in Flagstaff, which you will be here very soon.
We sure will.
Uh,
Thank you for having me.
oh, yeah, this is great. Hope we get this thing sold out for you if it's not already. I'm not sure, but
It's probably getting close, but there's usually a few straggling ticket seats and stuff open.
Oh yeah. Well, hopefully this will get people motivated. So
Yeah.
I've been hearing your music on and off for years, and we talked a little bit from Narada back in
Sure.
was that the 80s or 90s? I don't know.
It was the late 80s. My first album came out in 1987, and then in around the 2000s, I moved to Windham Hill.
Oh,
Made a couple of records for them before they got absorbed into BMG, I think.
that is sad that they got absorbed because man, that was such a powerful force. That
Yeah.
but people are still cranking out the music. So, well, why don't you just well, I wanted to say you're playing December 12th, which is next Tuesday at the Coconino Center for the Arts here in Flagstaff.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw you were coming, we got the tickets, so it'll be a fun family outing, holiday outing. But for people that maybe don't know, tell everybody who David Arkenstone is.
I've been recording since I said 1987, my own kind of instrumental music. Some people throw it in the new age category. Some people it's just cinematic something. I don't know. I'm kind of hard to peg sometimes because I like to do different kinds of things.
Right.
But the holiday show is pretty focused. I mean, I've done quite a few of my own holiday albums, and I did some one-offs for compilations for the record companies I was with, where they would select one song from each artist and make a compilation out of it. And so I do a couple of those songs in the show, and then I do some other songs that aren't holiday songs that are just fun to play around this time of year, and then some songs from around the world. And that's basically it. And I have a crack band, and they're just, they bring it, and we have a great deal of fun. And all I heard last night after the show was from people is like, you guys look like you're having so much fun. That makes us have fun. And that's exactly what I want to happen. It's infectious, I think. And the musicians are so good that it just warms your heart, really.
Well, I tell you that is a key. If you are firing on all cylinders with musicians that can do anything, it is just a blast, and I can't wait to see you guys do that live.
Yeah, and we're touring around, but those 2 hours we're on stage, it's like what we live for. So it's pretty cool.
Glad you have a night off tonight. Recoup a little bit.
Nice to recuperate. Yeah.
So you're kind of, this tour is for Winterlude, right? Or
I have a new album. I have a new album called Winterlude, and we are playing a couple songs from there. But Winterlude is not a holiday album. It has no carols or sleigh bells on it.
Right.
But it's my interpretation of what winter means to me, I guess. Not the snow shoveling, not the driving necessarily, but the stuff that I remember as a kid growing up outside of Chicago. And these days I live in California, so I don't see a lot of winter. So we have to drive to Lake Tahoe or go on tour to Colorado and northern Arizona. I've been to Flagstaff many times, and there's always a bunch of snow there in the wintertime.
Oh yeah, last year was insane, 150 inches.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. That wasn't even on the mountain, had like twice as much as that. So it was nuts.
Yeah. Wow.
But nothing, we've had a little dusting so far, but it's like 50 degrees now. So
yeah, it goes away unless it's in the shade.
Right. So what else can people expect at your show?
You'll see 5 musicians play quite an array of instruments. I play keyboards and guitar and bells, and the drummer plays about 20 things, sometimes all at once. Right. And the flutist has an array of flutes. It's because my music is demanding in some ways. I want to hear what I want to hear. And the thing when you put a band together to play your own music, what you get is their years of experience and their and the way they express themselves. You know, you put the notes on the page, but they took it to another level. Like, I'm just thrilled with this band. It's just awesome.
How did you find them? They all from
You
LA or
know,
something? Or?
no, two are from the East Coast, Ohio and Pennsylvania, and it's usually like a recommendation,
Right.
and then somebody recommend, oh, I know a cello player, you know,
Yeah.
but because we have cello, we have violin, we have the flutes, like I said, and what I do, and then a bunch of percussion, and then in the beginning of the second set, we all come forward and just kind of sit in a couple chairs and have sort of like a campfire set,
Yeah, I
and
saw
people
something about
really
those.
love that.
That's
You know,
cool.
people just love that. It's sort of intimate, you know, you don't
Hmm.
usually see stuff like that. And it's fun for us because we're unplugged. We're just sitting with each other like we're in a pub or something. It's
Yeah.
really,
Well, the Coconino Center for the Arts would be perfect for that because it is a very intimate venue. So
yeah,
that'll be
yeah.
perfect.
I'm
Um,
excited to play there.
when you play with really talented people, it's amazing how you can know who's playing what instrument. I mean, you can, oh yeah, that's Sally or whatever. You
Yeah,
can just
yeah,
tell
sure.
because their self comes through it. That's awesome.
Yep. Well, they put themselves into it, you know, like I said, they interpret it their way, and then they go way beyond that and bring other
Mhm.
things that they know what they do with a phrase, simple things that
Right,
I never would have thought of. And
right.
just a thrill for me. I look across the stage going, wow, look at
Yeah,
all that. And we
awesome.
have fun and they have fun together. You know, there's
Yeah,
interaction with us. It's a real band. So, you know, yeah, it's my name, but it's a real band, which
yeah,
I'm thrilled about.
that's great. Well, I'm a songwriter as well, and I would love to
Hey,
hear your creative process. How do you come up with these? Because I've been listening to a lot of you in the last week, just kind of catching up on a lot of things, and I'm like, there's a lot of melodies going on there, and
yeah.
just what is your process?
You know, sometimes I start with a concept for a record. Let's take Winterlude, for example. I knew for several years I wanted to do a winter album.
Hmm.
And I'm just collecting thoughts and memories. And we played in Colorado last season, and I got inspired to, okay, this is the year. So when I got home and I decided to do the record, I started with an idea of which instruments actually that I probably wouldn't use. Like, I don't want any percussion, really
Right,
heavy percussion. I don't want any I don't know, brass. I didn't use any, you know, it was all
right.
pianos and strings started. And then I have a lot of textural sounds that I've
Hmm.
created that kind of bring me to that mood, like that it feels like winter, you know. And then there's a song on there called Darkening Skies. And for some reason, I like doing songs about storms. Maybe because I don't see them that often. I don't know. I
Oh, it's
mean, in
power
Colorado
too.
and northern Arizona, I know you find them.
Yeah,
But where I live in California is close to the coast, the central coast, and there's just not a lot of activity like that. Like, they get
right.
excited if there might be a little rain. That's what happens. So I travel through my music. You know, I make music that takes me somewhere. And so, like, for example, the first song on the album called "Warm Lights Flicker on the Lake," I was in Switzerland on Lake Zurich, and I
Oh,
went out middle of the night. It was winter, and it was just gorgeous. And I saw these twinklings across the lake, and I thought, wow, look at all those, there's a bunch of people over there. What are they doing? You know,
yeah.
got me all interested. And then I went in the house, and there was a piano there, and I started
Oh,
writing that song. And then I one of my favorite things about winter, which is elusive for me, is when you're in a forest or on a street or somewhere that's just snowing huge flakes, and it just makes it silent. They're so absorbent.
oh
It's
yeah,
just quiet and giant flakes. That's just like, to me, that's just like magic, like nature magic. And it's
yeah.
so easy to get inspired by that, you know. And I don't think it's arrogant necessarily to try to communicate nature through music. I mean,
Oh, not at
composers
all.
have done that through the ages.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm right in there, and I try to do that kind of thing. Um, so that's kind of how I get inspired. And you know, the album before this was music inspired by Middle Earth, which I'm also a fan of, the
Okay.
Tolkien world.
Right. Yeah.
And that was a different thing where I read the books again, and I looked at different things I thought I could interpret that people would enjoy. And so I
Hmm.
did it that way. But I
So,
usually
oh, go ahead.
no, I just usually start with an instrument, whether it's guitar, piano, or some light percussion. I have a bunch of drums in my studio, and usually something comes out of that. And so I'm fortunate.
So you're always just having the tape running and putting an idea down on something. Say, okay, save that one.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. What kind of songs do you write?
It's singer songwriter, but I also do some things like you. I have some kind of ambient stuff and some electronica stuff, and
Nice.
but it's just, I was a classical guitar major years and years ago
Wow.
in Chicago at North Park University. I don't know
Oh,
if
wow.
you know North
Nice.
Park, but lived in Chicago for 20 years, and
Yeah.
but made my way out to the Southwest.
Mhm.
This is a great place to be.
The Southwest is special.
Oh,
I lived for a couple of years in Cortez, Colorado, which is Four Corners,
oh yeah,
pretty,
right. Drive
you
through it
know,
a lot.
drive up diagonally from Flagstaff and
Yep.
you're there.
Yep.
Uh, and that was special. I ended up doing I had some Native American flutes, so it was just I'd go out and look at all these mesas
Oh
and
yeah.
things, and it was very inspirational.
Yeah. What's the name of it? Is it Native Christmas or Native Holiday? That I love that.
Yeah, no, I think there's a native Chris. I think there is a native Christmas. I get commissioned sometimes to do albums, and
Yeah.
for sure it's native Christmas,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
Beautiful stuff.
yeah.
So how often are you composing? Is it just like whenever you're inspired, or it depends
I
on
try to do it
project?
every day, all
Do you
day. That's what I try to
do
do.
you really? Okay.
Because I might change genres throughout the day. I was experimenting before we left. After I was done practicing all the songs I had to learn for this tour that I
Yeah.
forgot. Um, I was experimenting with some lo-fi, with just a simple
Oh,
loop, little simple beat, and just not
mhm.
complicated melodies and just some ambient sounds. And it was so fun. I mean, music to me
Oh,
is like making sound paintings. They're little experiences, and that's the way I approach it. So, I do it every day though. I mean, I love it. People ask me, "Oh, when are you going to retire?" sometimes, and I was like, "What from what?"
yeah,
You know?
right. This is like the best creative thing you can do. I mean,
Yeah.
I've always said that music is my favorite invisible force, because
Wow, I like that.
there's crazy power that we can't put it together, and you don't see it. It's just there. It's I love it.
I know. You know what happens to me? I find out about that at the end of the show when I go out and somebody wants a CD signed or something. They're like you said, I've been listening to you for decades. You helped me through this period in my life, or I just go there when I want to disappear or whatever it is. I get or they were ill or something and my music helped them pull through.
Oh,
It's
totally.
so powerful because you put out a album, let's say, and you look at the chart or something, or the record company says, "Oh, people are buying it." It's like,
Mhm.
who are these people? But when you go on tour, you know who they are. They're right
Right,
there, and
right.
they're grateful, and I'm grateful for because it's a two-way communication because I want to make music to share. Some people may just want to stay in their studio and just whatever, but
Right.
I like to make it to share and take it out there when I can.
Now, do you ever get this feeling? Because I know when I write and I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it out there. It's like, oh, geez, like, do you ever get nervous, or you're putting your baby out there, and I don't know, it's just a
Yeah,
weird
for
feeling.
sure. I have a lot of babies, and I
Yeah.
think I'm getting better at knowing when the album is finished, for one thing,
Okay.
because I could add to it. I could
Right.
still be adding to
Right.
Winterlude. It's like, oh, it has 10 tracks. Well, maybe it should have 20 tracks. I don't know.
Right.
But I'm better at that, and I'm better at making a statement and knowing when I've made it, I think, or making a mood. And it's like, okay, that's enough of that mood.
Right.
So, but it's still when the record comes out, it's like, okay, let's see what happens,
Yeah.
and some albums resonate more with people than other albums,
Mhm.
or the album finds its public later because a lot of my music,
Oh yeah,
it's kind of timeless because
it
it's not tied to it's not like a pop song where it might be tied to the who's ever running for president at the
Yeah,
time or
your
whatever.
stuff is more seasonal,
Yeah,
seasons,
yeah,
and where
it's
you are and things like that.
yeah, and a lot of it's inspired by nature, which is all around us all the time.
Yeah.
So sometimes it takes a couple years for an album to find its legs, and then I get emails and messages from people who say, "I just found your music," and
Mhm.
they're very happy,
Yeah.
with even the older music,
Right.
So I'm blessed. Let's put it that way.
That's awesome, man. So happy
Yeah,
for you.
yeah.
Thanks for sharing all that music with us. And like
Well,
I said,
yeah.
I've heard of you, on and off, but then I really dug into your catalog and I'm like, dang. I mean, how many albums do you have? I mean,
I don't know. I think it's over 60.
that's
I
insane.
mean, I know, but that's what I love to do, and that's
Oh
what I
yeah.
do all the time.
So
But and I love going from genre to genre, like you mentioned, the native category. I've done several records in that category. I've done Christmas albums. I've done more new agey kind of albums. I've done adventurous albums.
right.
So it changes, whatever mood I'm in. And I don't really follow trends. I just do, I kind of basically make music I'd like to listen to, and I hope others will, you know.
Well, for many years, I've been always looking for great ambient music that has substance.
Hmm.
That is also not a lot of that music is in a minor key. And
Right.
it's like,
Right.
no, I want that, but I want to be feel good about it. And I think
Yeah,
your music,
sure, sure. Yeah,
yeah,
not so dark or not so moody or
yeah,
something.
right.
Yeah,
Those are
yeah.
good sometimes, but not all the time.
Well, I think you need a balance even on an album.
Oh,
It
for
can't
sure.
all be dark, or it's not a journey, I feel.
It's a little sad that people don't really do albums anymore. It's more singles,
I
it's like,
know.
when you sit down and a band would put out an album, I mean, I guess they still do, but people don't really listen to it like that anymore.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping they do because the last three albums I've made, I also added vinyl.
Oh,
And that's
cool.
people have been buying that. And I
Really?
love vinyl, not only because I grew up with it, but because it's a listening experience. It's not like a track on a Spotify playlist.
Hmm.
It's more of an
Right,
experience. You have to physically put the record on, so you're making an effort right
right,
there,
right.
and then maybe you listen to the whole thing and then flip it over. You
Yeah,
know, so I like that part. I mean, I love CDs for the pristine quality and all, but a
right.
lot of people are now streaming all the time, and
Yeah,
and it's a cool
much.
way. But the music is like you don't even know what artist you're listening to sometimes.
Right.
It's
So
tricky.
somebody sound alike these days too.
Yeah, but that's when we play live, they know who they're listening to.
That's for sure. So, what other composers, musicians have inspired you over the years?
I probably go back to the Beatles
Okay.
when I was very young,
Right.
and then moving on to some of the progressive rock bands from Europe and yes,
Yep.
and then I got into folk music uh from England and Europe also. I
Right.
started digging that there was a band called the Chieftains that were
Oh
huge,
yeah.
and I really love them. And then another force would be Peter Gabriel. I just love almost everything he does.
I
I
have
think
not
because
listened to his new album, which I feel bad about.
I've listened to a bunch of tracks. His albums are like his music is like flowers. Like you listen to a track, it's like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. You listen the next time, it's like, oh wow,
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
And I love that he crafts them so well. And I mean the album the one with Sledgehammer was just such a breakthrough. But
Yeah.
I saw him recently in San Francisco and he did
Did
some
you
of those
really?
songs, and they are like they were from yesterday.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, just as powerful. So
He sounded just as good as he was back then.
he did sound pretty good, yeah. Doesn't have any hair on his head anymore, but he
Yeah.
sounds
Well, that's becoming a common thing. Thankfully, not for you and I.
not yet. Yeah, my dad had his hair till the end, so I'm hoping that's gonna stick.
Yeah, me too. Uh, well, so do you have any advice for songwriters or someone who's trying to maybe do some things like you, or just what are your thoughts on the industry or what software to use? I'm curious, what software do you use?
Well, I use a lot of software from Native Instruments. That's a company that makes keyboards and software.
Right.
And I have a couple of their keyboards I'm actually using on tour. And to record, I use Pro Tools because
Okay.
sometimes I have to sync it with film or a game or something
Right.
sometimes. But I use a lot of different software from companies that like a company called Spitfire and Orchestral Tools that are making symphonic samples
Yeah.
where you can actually get close to sounding like the real thing.
Yeah. It's
And
amazing.
what I would encourage people to do is just start with some artists you like and try to listen to what they are doing, and then take it from there and go your own way and try to find your own voice.
Yeah.
Because you look at Spotify, they release thousands of tracks every day.
Mhm.
So I'm happy I'm not starting out right now. Like that would be discouraging to me.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Totally get
I
lost.
would say, you got to be passionate, because if you're not passionate, people are just going to pass you by, because
Mhm.
there's a lot of passionate
Right.
people. And so I think you got to find your voice and be passionate about it, and not look away, not look back. I mean, not
Yeah,
away.
just
You
keep
can look
looking
away.
forward, and like you totally inspired me to like get back on the horse and just like write every day. Or,
Yeah,
it's just because you never know when a great idea is going to come or what's going to
that's
come.
right. Yeah, it's like practicing. It's
Yeah.
like practicing in a way. And even if you leave your phone on for 2 minutes and you're just noodling around, there might be a snippet in there
Right.
that you hear later, and I just think, oh, I can expand on that little thing, that thought.
Yeah.
It's not gone. So it's so easy to record these days. Cheap.
It's amazing. I remember
Yeah,
doing Tascam cassettes, back
yeah.
in Chicago in the late 80s or whatever. And
Uh-huh.
that was exciting.
It was exciting. They had 4-track cassettes, so you
Right.
could
Yeah, that's what I had.
play. Yeah. Yeah, it was exciting. I remember my first computer was a Commodore 64, and it had very primitive sequencing software. It had like
Oh, wow.
1 through 8, and there was a little dot next to each number. And if it was lit up, there was something on that track. You couldn't see anything, but it was amazing. I was talking about that the other day. I was like, wow. And I made my first two albums that way. We took it in the studio and took all those sounds and recorded them, and then augmented them with a bunch of live stuff. But
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
it was pretty fun.
Light years now, man. We're living in
Yeah,
the future. I say that all the time
I
too.
know. Well, I really came alive when computers and uh, keyboards, synthesizers could talk to each other. When
Right.
that happened, it was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is a game changer. Now I don't need a band. I can I can write
Right.
8 parts all myself, just like I want them.
Right.
At least 8, and then it got to be 16, and now it's a million. So
Now, do you ever use a producer? Because I've done a lot of recording all in my own little bubble. And then I've
mhm,
realized that, I've had done an album with the producer and it was like, it becomes something different. It becomes
yeah,
something bigger, I think.
yeah, and you want to make sure you're going to keep your identity. I had a producer on my first 3 records from Narada, uh, and his contribution was weeding out what maybe didn't belong on that particular album. Like, because I came into my first album, I had so much music that I had been writing for 10 years. I want
Right.
to put everything on it. And it
Right.
was like, that doesn't, let's try to,
Right.
corral it a little bit. And he was just terrific at that. And that
Okay.
really helped. And then I got better and better and better. And now I rarely use a producer, but I play it for people that I trust, ahead of time, and get
Oh, I
their
see what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah,
Just to get their vibe on it.
yeah, like more than one track at a time, right? So that's it's like a cohesion. Like with Winterlude, of course, I played it for my wife, I played it for my friends,
Right.
uh, a lot of important people that their opinion meant something to me.
Yeah.
And so I felt good about it. I mean, I would have done it anyway, probably, but it's nice to have a little backup from people you trust.
It is for sure. Yeah. So what's next for you?
I got some albums planned for next year. I hope to do more touring. I'd like to tour in Europe. I think that would be
Ooh,
fabulous.
that would be amazing.
uh, but I do have some album projects I'm tinkering with already, because that's what I do. Some of it's ambient and some of it's more of a concept piece. So, I'm just trying to get clear on what I want to do.
Do you do any session work with any other artists?
No, I mean, sometimes I did some work a couple of years ago or a year ago with my friend David Lons, who's another Narada
Oh
artist,
yeah,
piano player,
awesome.
and his wife is a singer, and I worked on an album of theirs with them, and that was great fun. But I don't usually play like for sessions or anything like
Well, that's
that.
great. You don't
It's
have to, man.
well, no, but it's easy to do. They send you the tracks, and nowadays you just do it at
Right.
your house and anyway,
Yeah.
you know. But I still like going in the studio, like this Winterlude album. I had a cellist, and I didn't want to do it remotely. I wanted to do it in the studio, and as often as I can, I will do it in the studio because they'll do it. But if you're not there
Mhm.
to, oh, that little bit, oh, can
Right.
you do more of that?
Right.
You
Right.
miss that,
Yeah.
and that's a fun thing. So I try to do that as often as possible.
Awesome. Well, man, I am so excited to see your show. I'm even more excited now after talking with you,
Right.
and just can't wait till you're here in Flag and hearing digging more into your catalog. And what,
Hmm.
what other final thoughts do you have for Radio Sunnyside here in Flagstaff?
Well, I mean, Flagstaff, I've been through there, I'd say 20 times in my life, and then we'd go from Flag to Sedona or
Oh yeah.
Flag to Monument Valley. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, and I have a book about Route 66,
Yep.
which has a deep history to Flagstaff.
Yep.
And I love the town. I love seeing the pines with snow on them. It's just a
Best.
beautiful sight, and the people have always been really nice. I played there a couple times over the years, and it's just been delightful. And this tour is really about fun, about having some
Yeah.
holiday fun and doing some songs that are emotionally rich, I think.
Well, I'm surprised you're not playing Sedona because I would think you'd be huge in Sedona.
We played Sedona last year.
Okay.
I don't want to play the same place every
No,
year.
no. Keep it keep it different. Mix it.
Yeah, and we played a couple venues in Colorado. We played yet last year, and that was fine. But I like kind of breaking new ground if I can,
Yeah.
because I'll play somewhere and I'll get an email like, "Oh, that's 100 miles from me. Can you come down here?" And then somehow maybe we work it out the next year to really go down there, because if there's one person there, there's probably a bunch of other people
Yeah,
there. So,
right.
you know,
Awesome.
yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's not difficult, I would say, traveling, but you have to be a certain kind of person to travel from town to town and play a
Right.
concert, and then the next day go to the next town. I mean, it takes something out of you, but you get invigorated by those 2 hours on stage.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. What I've heard it every musician's heard that you don't get paid for the travel. You get well, what is that? You probably know the quote I'm talking about. I can't think
I
of
know
it.
what you mean, but yeah.
You get paid for those 2 hours or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, because musicians, at least a lot of the musicians I know, they live to play for people.
Mhm.
That's their thing, and that's half of my thing. I like making albums, but then I like to take those albums out there.
Right.
And it probably started when I was a kid and thought the Beatles were so cool on stage. I wanted to do that, but now I'm doing it in my own way, and it's just a thrill to take the music straight to the people because they just love it, and I'm so grateful for that.
Well, you are blessed and
Yes.
talented guy, and just thanks for taking some time and hanging with us and tell
Yeah.
us a little about your story. And yeah, man, I can't wait for Tuesday.
Yeah. Coming up.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So
We
what
have
do
a
you,
couple
when do you
more
get in?
dates in Colorado.
Okay, when do you get into Flag? You coming that day or the day before? Or
I couldn't tell you. I haven't looked at the sheet recently. I'm usually just 2 days ahead. Like I'll say, okay, where are we going to be in two
yeah,
days?
otherwise it'd be too much, way too much. So. Well, looking forward to seeing you, and thanks again so much, man. Great connecting and hearing your
Yes.
story, and
Thanks, Steve.
hopefully we'll
And
see you.
your holiday living room looks fabulous.
That's all my wife.
I love it. Well,
We
it's
started
beautiful.
early this year.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, well, thanks. And your
Not
musical
that
journey,
early.
huh?
It's not that early.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no,
I think after Thanksgiving, the world accelerates somehow. I don't know what happens.
I tell you, every year goes by faster and faster and faster.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's a little freaky, but you just got to enjoy every moment. Every day is
you
a gift.
absolutely do. Absolutely do.
Yep.
We were driving today, if you have a second, we're driving up to Salida, Colorado, which is pretty
Oh
much
yeah,
in the Rockies. And
we skied there. Monarch, I think, is right there.
yeah, and we just saw this snow on the top of the Rocky Mountains. It's just unbelievable. You know, it makes you feel not necessarily small, but just like, wow, this is a big world and there's so many beautiful things in it, you know, and that's enough to inspire music too. So it's wild. It's a nice
Well,
circle.
well, you've inspired me to pick up my guitar or turn on my
Great.
computer and just kind of figure it out. And have you had a dry spell? Did you go through a time where nothing was really happening?
Um,
Or is it just
You
always
know, at the beginning, you know, I couldn't figure out, like I started playing after I was in a rock band for years, and then all of a sudden I had two small kids, and I realized I can't be practicing 4 nights a week and painting houses or whatever I was doing and trying to get my music career going.
right,
Uh, I kind of canned that band and started just doing my own thing.
right.
And at the beginning, it was like I wasn't sure I was even in a genre. You know, I
Mhm.
knew I heard some things and some ambient things, and you know, of course, Brian Eno did his thing, but I knew
Right.
that was a little too mellow for what I wanted
That
to
was
do
super
since
mellow.
I was just in a rock band, you know,
Yeah.
and still wanted to play my guitar.
Mhm.
So, you know, it took me a while to get going. And that story I told you about the producer, he helped point me in a direction. And
Okay.
and now I've gotten much better at just taking each project and you know, I wouldn't say a dry spell. It'd be a time of reflection, like what do I want to say here, you know.
I like
But
that.
when you start playing your guitar or you turn your computer, I make sure you record it
Oh yeah.
because when you listen back, it educates you. You know, you think I hear things that's like, oh, I would never do that today. I wouldn't do that riff or whatever,
Okay.
and you and then you can find some fun stuff.
I always have a joke with my old guitar player. It'd be like, let's not have any chorus, man. There's chorus was 80s. There's a time and a place for it, maybe, but not all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. Well, that can be an adventure too, you know.
Yeah.
Like when you listen to a lot of my music and you've started to, a lot of the songs you'll hear maybe halfway through, I decide to take a left turn or change the orchestration. You know, I do that a lot. I don't know if it's because I get bored or I want to follow this side thought. But I had an interview where the lady pointed that out and it was like, yeah, I guess I do that a lot, you
Oh,
know. And it's kind of like a bridge maybe, but it's really sometimes like a real left turn,
right.
you know.
It's a surprise. That's what keeps music
Yeah,
interesting and exciting, as opposed
yeah,
to so much stuff that is just, it's made to be just background stuff. But if you can make
right.
a twist at the end, it's like, ooh, you kind of get people's interest again.
Yeah, yeah. That's probably it. Yeah, because it keeps my interest, you know,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
pass it along, so that's great. But thanks so much for your time.
All right, David. Well, hopefully we can connect when you're here, and
Yeah, maybe
God
you'll have
bless
a little
you. And
snow.
oh, well, yeah, I think it's 50 degrees.
It is here in Colorado too.
Oh, is it? Not much snow there. Well, it's supposed
Yeah.
to be El Nino. It's supposed to get snow, but it hasn't happened yet. It's
Okay.
usually
Well,
a little later.
we'll bring some winter music with us anyway.
All right, man. Great seeing you.
Thanks
Thanks
so
so much.
much.
Take it easy.
Soon.
All right. Bye bye.